Let's talk about probiotic foods. I want to just give you two definitions. So a probiotic is the microbes, and microbes can be bacteria, viruses, parasites. These are all microbes, and they are all in your body. Your body has this symbiotic relationship with them. They do incredible things. They help your immune system. They produce precursors for your neurotransmitters. They produce your B vitamins, vitamin K. They protect the gut. They help the blood-brain axis. There's so many things that these bugs do. So a probiotic is basically a bug that you have in your food, or you may have in a capsule, that you take into the body and hopefully enhance your own microbiome, which is a bunch of probiotics. A prebiotic is the food that feeds the microbiome or the probiotics. So the prebiotic is the fiber or the resistant starch. The probiotic is the actual bug. So what I want to talk to you about today is probiotic foods, not capsules and tablets. Like, we haven't known a lot about the microbiome for very long, and we are exponentially understanding it, and the amount of knowledge that is out there is growing. But we still don't know a lot about it because there are trillions and billions of viruses and bacteria and parasites. And there is 10 to the power of 30, that's 30 zeros of viruses within our body. So we actually are still learning, and I don't know if we're ever going to know it. But if we look back at cultures and traditions, we realize that every culture had a probiotic food or a fermented food. So the Koreans had kimchi, the Germans and the Northern Europeans had sauerkraut. Many of the herders have fermented dairy foods such as cheeses or yogurts. So everybody seemed to have some sort of fermented food. There were reasons for this. One, they didn't realize it increased the nutrition, but it did increase the nutrition. But number one, it was a way of preserving foods. And if you preserve foods, then you can last winters if foods aren't very much available in the winter. These probiotic foods that you can make up in the way of sourdough bread, you can make it up in kefirs or yogurts. They're all able to be made at home, produced a specific types of bacteria. So when you get a probiotic starter, there's specific bacteria that somebody has thought, these are the best things for you, this is your starter, and this is what you put into that food. But there are ways of creating your own probiotic foods, and that is by leaving them out on your bench. And that's what we do with sourdough breads. So we create a starter with water and flour, we leave it out on the bench, it starts to bubble because all these wonderful wild bacteria get into it, and then we keep feeding it. And then what it does is it pre-digests all the proteins and sugars in the wheat, and you then produce this beautiful bread. We can do this with cabbage as well. So you can actually get a piece of cabbage, like any cabbage, doesn't have to be organic. You can add our seaweed salt to it. So you chop the cabbage, add the seaweed salt, you massage it, and eventually this water starts to come out of the cabbage. Then you put it in a glass jar, you sink all the shredded cabbage down into the water. You put something heavy on top of it, and I usually put some big leaves of cabbage on top. Put a lid on it, put it on the bench, and 7 days later you can put it in the fridge or you can put it in your pantry. And what has happened is that you have grown the microbes that were on your hands, believe it or not. And for some people this might sound just deadly, but in the air. But this is how we made it. So all those microbes that are natural to you, that is part of your microbiota and microbiome, go into that cabbage. It then starts to ferment, more of those grow. And what we find that happens is that those microbes have an ability to get rid of any pesticides or herbicides that's in the cabbage. It also increases the nutrient load as well as vitamin C. And so all of a sudden, with one head of cabbage, you've created a multi-probiotic and multivitamin food. And you just add that to your breakfast or your lunch or your dinner as part of your regular eating routine. And we can do this with coconut creams and coconut waters and milks and other vegetables. You can ferment. You can even ferment fruit. So if you want to get more sugar out of your fruit, you would ferment it using, say, a coconut yogurt, and you put like banana or berry or mango, and what ends up happening is that those beautiful microbes eat the sugar, and then those microbes increase, the sugar's gone. It tastes good. I have to tell you, it tastes good. And then what happens is when you eat it, it starts to feed your microbiome, not only in giving you more bugs, which are really important because diversity is important, but what it does, it starts to give you more prebiotic foods as well to feed the bacteria that's already in there. I love probiotic foods, or fermented foods as they're called. They're one of probably the most richest sources of probiotics and prebiotics, and they're the richest sources. I think they're better than any multi-tablet that's out there. So the Changing Habits probiotics are made exactly like I've just explained the sauerkraut. We just get a whole bunch of other foods and we add microbes to it, but there are other microbes on the food, so we can't tell you that that's the only microbes that are in it. So then we add microbes to it, we ferment it, then we dry it, and we make it into not a fine powder, but a powder, and then we package it and we sell it. But you can make your own. You can either buy it from us or you can make your own. Hope you enjoyed that information on probiotics and prebiotics. I have a lot of information in my book about this, Lab to Table, and then we do a lot of blogs, and if you go to our probiotics, you'll learn all about that too. So you'll understand the difference between probiotics and probiotic foods and probiotic pills. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll talk to you in the next video.